And then let me move my chair out of the way. Okay. So I literally walked in through the door about less than half an hour ago. And I started this morning on my yoga mat with you guys, well, with some of you guys when we practiced this morning at 6:30. And then I've been in clinic and things all day today. So I've literally walked in the door and I have jumped in the shower and I've put my pajamas on. So I am ready for bed after tonight's practice. So you've seen these pajama bottoms have made an appearance already, but it won't distract you from your practice. But I just need to be, I've needing to be more disciplined in my own approach to sleeping and bedtimes and actually just go to bed. So I figured if I make it easier for myself by getting ready, then all I've got to do is just slip off and go read my book for a bit. Okay, so come and take, please. I probably should delete that bit out. Not that anybody really sees these videos so much, other than you guys. Okay, so come take a comfortable seat. It honestly doesn't matter what it looks like, but be easy, be comfortable. We will do a breathing exercise first of all. So I'd like you just to settle into something that feels sensible, that allows you to kind of ground yourself. We've neglected the breathing practices in the last couple of weeks, although ironically we did spend the whole class breathing last week, didn't we? It was all focused on the breath. But this week we're just going to concentrate a little bit more at the start of the practice, just so that we can tune into that relaxation mode, which is so important to just down wind the nervous system. That's what this practice offers us, that that down regulating of everything that's so raw, so high, so yang like, and we just want to come down into the yin space. Okay. Can you start by just rolling the shoulders backwards a few times? Do little circles. And then begin to move your body maybe. So the head can move, the back, the upper back, the lower back if you feel that you need to. Don't be too stuck in this. Look for a fluidity. Okay. And then coming back into an easy place, letting the hands rest down onto the lap again. And if it's easy, comfy for you, close down the eyes. I'd like you to breathe, preferably in and out through your nose. But if necessary, you can breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Take a few breaths here, starting to slow down everything. Then with your next breath in, make that breath last for a count of 4. So breathe in for 4, then breathe out for 4. So don't worry about keeping up with my voice or anything, you just breathe at your own pace. And do this for the next few breaths. Continue to breathe in for 4 and out for 4. And that's not going to change now. What is going to change is that at the end of the exhalation, you are going to hold your breath. You're not going to breathe for a count of 5. So breathe in for 4 Breathe out for 4 and then hold your breath for 5. Repeat the in for 4 and out for 4 and then hold your breath for 6. And you're going to keep going with this until you get to 8. If it feels too strong, take it back down a number. So just to repeat one more time, you're breathing in for 4, you're breathing out for 4, and then you're holding your breath. And each time you hold it, it lasts for an extra count until you get to 8. And then you're going to repeat that 4 times. Breathing in, breathing out, and holding. And then make this round your last. And return your breath to its own rhythm once you've finished. Okay, taking another couple of breaths here. Taking one more breath. And then returning your awareness back into the space that you are in. And well done. Okay, so we're just going to give the legs a little shake out. So just to repeat, in case you came into the conversation a little bit later, thigh mandala. So we're working our way around the thighs, fronts, sides, back. We're going to start with the sides because that's always nice and juicy. And we're going to come into shoelace pose. Now, shoelace looks like this. So it's one leg crossed over the other. I know this isn't great for everybody's knees, so you have the option to do a half shoelace, and then when we do the other side, it will be the other side that you work on. But if neither of these suit your hips or your knees, then your alternative is banana pose. So where you side bend lying down, and that gives you that stretch down the outer thigh, okay? But if we're able to sit here, this is great. It's mainly the top leg, the top thigh. So if you've got a nice feeling of a bit of stretch happening here, then you're in the right place. If you've got something happening on the bottom leg, that's bonus, okay? Obviously you can play with where this leg is. You can put your foot flat on the floor a bit more if you wanted to, rather than having it round to the side, okay? Now, this is perfectly fine and adequate just to stay here and sit here like this. And some of you might want to do that. You might find sitting on a block or a blanket is helpful here. So if you're feeling that this is tricky, elevate your bottom, sit on something. Okay, so that's the legs taken care of. The upper body, like I said, can stay upright. You might find that you get more stretch if you lean back into your hands. And some of you might get more stretch if you want more stretch by leaning forwards. So they're all options that you can take. Now, if you're leaning forwards, because we've had a little bit of a theme of it in this week's class, then you can eagle your arms or you can give yourself a hug. So I hope that I've got a really dark jumper on, which doesn't help, but basically I've wrapped the arms, and then when I fold forwards, I can put my elbows onto my knee, or I can hook the elbows beyond the knee and fold a little bit more deeply. They're all just options, they're all suggestions. You don't have to do the binding of the arms if you don't want to, but it just kind of ties it in with what we were doing on Tuesday when we worked on eagle pose, if you remember that far back. Okay, so come into one of the torso positions that works well for you, and if you're just here concentrating on the sensation in your outer hips and that feels lovely and juicy, then you're doing the right thing. Obviously, if you've got any pain in the knees or discomfort there, please adjust your leg position. It might just be a slight tweak of where your foot is, and that can make sometimes all of the difference. And I'm going to put my timer on so that I don't keep you here any longer than is fair. So the nice thing about folding forwards, for which there will be quite a lot of in tonight's practice, for any time we fold forwards gives us that chance to close the eyes and to start to shut down the stimulation from the outside environment that we're in. Whether that's noises from the room, whether that's the brightness of the lights, even the temperature of the space that you're in. Try to detract your mind from being aware of all of those things and just stay with the gentleness of your breathing and this intention to move with kindness into your body. Your body is this amazing, fascinating miracle of cells. And we need to be a little bit more in awe of it, I think. In awe of all of its capabilities and its functions that really we just take for granted. So, if you have wrapped your arms, please take note of which arm is on top of the other. Slowly come up, let go of the arms, change the cross of the legs. Now, if you feel like your legs have suddenly turned into stone, then you're doing something right. That's normal. You're going to switch over to the other side. Give them a bit of love if they need it. Give them a shake out if they need it. But just come directly onto the other side as much as you can. And then change the wrap of your arms if you're incorporating that. It is not essential if you're not. And you can decide, do you want to stay neutral and upright? Do you want to lean back? Or do you want to come forwards? Whether the arms are wrapped or not, you can still lean forwards without the wrap. You've got 1 more minute here, everyone. Please keep using soft breaths. And with every soft exhalation, send your awareness into your outer hips and send loving kindness to these areas that are probably feeling it quite intensely at the moment. Take your last breath and gently emerge when you are ready from this shape. And if the legs have suddenly aged even more, have become even more heavy, even more reluctant to move, then yes, you're definitely in the right ballpark with your practice. That should fade, not necessarily fairly quickly, but it shouldn't hang around too long. So then you can bring yourself down to lie down and just take a minute, let's say. We'll take a minute here just to soften, for the outer thighs and the outer hips to kind of regain their normal position, whilst also retaining the echo of that stretch. Because remember, the fascia stretches very, very slowly. So then when we come back to neutral, it goes back very, very slowly. And that's the feeling, that's the sensation, that's your body's fascial layers coming back. Okay, so slowly bring your awareness back into the space. So we've done the outer thighs. We're now going to move to the tops or the front of the thighs. For this, we're practicing saddle pose or half saddle pose. There are alternatives if you don't like either of these poses, so bear with while I just show you the options. So option number one is to stay on your back, is to keep your feet fairly wide apart so the knees and the ankles are not touching. You then roll the knees over to one side, but then you wiggle this foot around to the side until you can try and hold on to it, or at least bring it closer up towards you. And the idea is that you're generating the stretch in the front of the thigh. You're only doing it on one leg, so I'll give you a call and so you can swap legs. So this is the more moderate version of the quad stretch, but you can obviously stick with that one, or you can do this with or without a bolster. I'm going to slide the bolster behind just for ease. But the full saddle, remember, is this version where you sit back and maybe have some support underneath you. So you know this one, we've done this one so many times. So that's your other option. There is a further option where you can take a sort of sphinx pose with the knees on the bolster. So it's a bit precarious getting into it, but you end up sort of in this position like this. And if you bend your knees, you'll get a back bend. You're going to feel this in your back mostly, but you are actually stretching out the front of your thighs. So that's the third and final option that I'm going to offer. Okay. You don't have to have something as high as a bolster underneath your legs. It could just be a rolled up blanket if you want something a bit more moderate. Okay, so one of those three options, let me put my timer on and then I'll give you a time check. So for those of you that are in the lying doing the half saddle, in 2 minutes time, I'll give you a time check so that you can swap to the other side. Okay. So whichever thing you've chosen, just making sure that you've got the stretch in the target area. And it's probably going to feel intense to begin with because we just don't stretch these muscles often enough in this way. And remember, sorry, I've slipped into calling it muscles, but it's not muscles, is it? It's the fascia we're stretching. But the muscles are getting a stretch as well. However, we don't target this area with our stretches maybe often enough. I'm going to stick my neck out and say that. And that's why, and they get so tight. So that's why we can often feel this very intensively. Nevertheless, it's an important stretch to take. It's very good for the health of the knees. It's actually very good for the health of your lower back. So sometimes stretching the quads out can relieve an aching lumbar spine. And like I said, it can feel really intense for the first minute as your body settles. And then hopefully you go into this lovely space of, yeah, that feels manageable and I can enjoy myself. I can enjoy the time that I've got here. So for those of you that have done the lying twisting version, you're going to take your last breath on this side. And when you're done with that breath, can you roll your knees over to the other side to repeat the pose? And again, think about the area of your body that you're working, and then just send your exhalations in that direction. Send loving kindness in that direction. Send positivity, gratitude in that direction. You're going to take one more breath here, everybody. And then move out of the shape with the same kindness. Think about how you're going to do it. And then gently come to lie back down. to offer a little bit of rest. And again, it's always that lovely coming out feeling as you've got maybe more blood circulating freely. The sensations change. You can feel how you've stimulated your body. Okay, so last breath. So you might not need to come up to sit for the next one. The next one is the inner thighs. And yeah, so the next one is the inner thighs. So you have a couple of choices. I like to do this one with either the bolster or a block to hand, but I'm going to give you variations. So basically, variation number one is to have the legs in the air, but the legs open out into a wide V shape. I find this quite hard to sustain in this position unless I put something underneath my back. So I either, underneath my sacrum, so the very lower part of the spine, so I either use my bolster or I put a block here, and that little bit of elevation allows me to stay here for much longer, and then I'm just letting gravity do the work. If you don't want to lie on the block, but you do have a wall to hand, then you can shuffle yourself over to your wall, take your bottom up your bottom to the wall, and your legs can lie in this position. So there's this option. Or if neither of those appeal to you, you can do the sitting version. So you can come into dragonfly, which is sitting and folding or leaning back, whatever gets you the stretch on the inner thighs. Okay, so choose which one you would like. You could use your sofa, you don't have to use the wall, you could use your sofa to support you. Like I said, I like a cushion or something underneath the sit bone, underneath the back of the pelvis. Vivian, can you do your strap into a loop so it stays there without you having to hold it? And then you could maybe put it around your feet, and then it might, I don't know, you might be able to hold it in the position rather than you having to make all that effort to keep it as it is, to keep it sort of on your ankles. Yeah, isn't that interesting? I think most of you that I can see, anyway, those of you that I can see have all gone for the lying legs in the air. There's just something nice about it, isn't there? There's just something nice about the gravity doing a little bit of the work here. But also the legs in the air, very good for your blood, very good for your circulation, getting the venous blood back towards your heart. Okay, so let's gently think about releasing. And for those of you at the wall, stay there. For those of you, you might just bring your feet, bend your knees and bring your knees towards your chest. So you might just hug your knees in. We'll just take a little bit of a respite for a moment because I think we'll come into another pose from this position. Okay, so just let the legs soften. And the inner thighs return to a more neutral shape. Okay, so into the next pose. So we're going to throw in a glute stretch before we get to hamstrings, which are on the back of the legs. So we've done the outsides, the fronts, the insides. Now we're going to do the glutes. So we're doing sort of the bottom. Now, if you're at the wall, you can come a little bit away from the wall, but have your one foot on the wall and then the other foot crossed over. Now, obviously, for some of you, this won't be enough of a stretch. And if it isn't enough of a stretch, then you can take sleeping swan, which is pigeon pose. A little bit more stretch can be found the closer you get to the wall. So if you don't have enough stretch, shuffle closer and take the same figure of four crossing of the leg. Okay, so I hope you can see that. So the more close your bottom is to the wall, the bigger the stretch. If you want less stretch, you obviously move your bottom away from the wall. And the nice thing about this position is that you can use your hand to gently encourage your bent knee, your crossed over leg, towards the wall, because it will always want to meet the path of least resistance, which is coming closer towards your chest. So you don't want that to happen. You want the knee very gently to be encouraged towards the wall, just to your own measure. But like I said, if neither of those work for you, then please come into swan pose. You might find that you get a little bit bigger stretch or a little bit more comfortable stretch like this. So you can feel the intensity here. Obviously, it's a little bit less if you're at the wall, but still, it might be a strong stretch. So we still have to send that same kindness to these strong, stabilizing, supportive areas of the body. We're not trying to unwind their stability. We don't want to take that away. But through stretching and compressing, we help to make the area stronger. We benefit its stability for the longer term of the health of our body. By pulling on these bones, especially these big long bones of the thigh, we help to encourage bone density. It stimulates I think I've got it the right way around, the osteoblasts. They're the ones that build the bone. I might be wrong with that. I always get the osteoclasts and osteoblasts around the wrong way. Now these bone building cells start to decline as we get older. So this is why these sort of stimulating poses are so important for the health of our physical body. All right, slowly release and come on to the other side, please. Okay, so figure of four against the wall, or maybe you choose to do your sleeping swan on this side because that speaks to you for this hip. Who knows? Maybe there's just a little bit of rocking that's happening with your hips or your leg shape or position that just finds a little bit more ease. Okay, so taking one more breath here. And you can come out of the shape and into anything that appeals to you, any neutral position. You've had your legs in the air for a lot of minutes now, a lot of you have, so it might be quite nice to bring them down. and to rest. Okay, so we move towards our last target area, which is the back of the thighs. Now, in theory, you could stay on your back and you could take the snail pose that we did a couple of weeks ago now. So this, or you're going to take a seated forward fold, and I'll talk you through what I want you to do with that in a second. But for those of you that are more inclined to stay lying on the floor and you don't mind the legs in the air again, then you can use the bolster. So watch what I'm doing with my bolster. I'm kind of lifting the hips up and moving the bolster higher up my back so that then my legs come more over. Now, this is a lovely way to stretch the back of the legs because you're just letting gravity do the work. You're not forcing your body weight down over your legs at all. You're just letting the weight of the legs drop. So this I find is actually quite lovely. But if this isn't your cup of tea, then you could just come up to sit and fold forwards. And what I was going to suggest was that you do it one leg at a time. So you just get one knee, one leg out of the way and fold over one leg. So that was what my original plan of action was to do a sort of Janushirasana sort of version. Okay, but whatever appeals to you. Now the idea is that your feet go all the way over towards the ground. They don't have to go anywhere near the ground, but it is just that gravitational effect that gives you the stretch, and you want the stretch in the back of your thighs. So you don't want the stretch in your back. We're not doing the spine. We did the spine last week. So this week is about the legs. So feel the stretch in the back of your thighs. Lovely. Yeah, I'm intrigued again about how I always find it sort of fascinating to see what you choose to do, and it's sort of yogi's choice. Now, if you happened to do one leg forward fold, and I can't see that anybody is, there's any one of you that I can't actually see what you're doing. So if you need to swap over to the other leg, please do that now. If you're in an upside down position and it's getting enough and you've had enough, then feel free to come down any time you like. You've got about a minute and a half left here. to take your last breath. Slowly coming up and out. And come and take your final rest into Shavasana, please. So we've had a lot of bolster time, some of us have. So maybe the bolster could come underneath the knees tonight and to support and soften and just let the legs rest out. Do make sure that you are warm, do make sure that you are comfy. We'll be here for about 5 minutes. Okay, so just appreciate the sensations in and around the thighs and the hips generated by your practice. We're going to take a little breath-led meditation. So you are going to breathe in and imagine that you are filling up your heart space with light, with love, with kindness. And then with your exhalation, you are going to take the next exhale down to the outer thighs, the outer hips. And you're sending that love and kindness down to the outer edges of your legs. Your breath in will be back to the heart, to fill the heart with the radiance, the joy, the love, and then send that down to the front of the thighs, to your quads, the area we worked on second. Again, you're breathing into the heart space, and you might be keeping up with me, it doesn't matter, it's not important, just breathe at your own pace. And then we send that love and kindness down to the inner thighs. Just allow them to soften and notice any sensations you might be feeling here. You're breathing into the heart with every inhalation. And on the next exhalation, breathe into the glutes, the buttock muscles. That's where we went to next. And finally, after you've taken another lovely, refreshing breath in, you're breathing into the back of the legs, breathing out and sending all the love, kindness, care and attention. And then that is going to be your direction for the next few out breaths that you take. Breathing out, sending it all down to the whole of the leg, the whole of each leg, and even into the hips and the whole pelvic girdle. Notice how refreshed it feels to have moved in all different directions, to nourish, to heal, to promote strength and stability. And then take one more breath into the heart and down to the legs. Before you let go of this awareness in your mind's eye, and you just rest peacefully for the last couple of minutes of this practice. And then I'd like you to gently bring your awareness back into the space that you were in. Have a wiggle of your fingers and of your toes. Roll your head from side to side gently. Take a stretch out any way that feels good. And then you can gently gather your knees in and roll yourself over to the side. So you can come round and up, slowly to sit. Yay, welcome. Nice. All right, so just take an easy seat, a Sukhasana. Fingertips out to the sides. Breathing in and gently gathering, palms meeting before letting the hands drift down and settle. This gesture of gratitude for our practice and all of the gifts that it gives us. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Namaste to you. And I will look forward to seeing you soon